Lost in Random from Swedish developer Zoink is the latest addition to EA Original's ever-growing library, and there's an argument to be made that it's unfairly fallen under the radar this year. This Tim Burton inspired action-adventure is full of charm, humour and really fun gameplay, which is only ever let down by a few pacing issues here and there. If, like me, you've grown up watching Tim Burton movies, then you'll find a lot to love with Lost in Random's approach to the wonderfully odd world they've created here. The game wears its inspirations clearly on its sleeve for all to see, and every individual character and location has a certain gothic charm which made me feel right at home, especially for this time of year. The story focuses on a little girl named Even, who is on the hunt for her older sister, Odd. The evil Queen of Random decides the fate of every child on their 12th birthday with a roll of her cursed black dice, and on Odd's birthday, she rolls a 6, meaning she's transported to the Queen's realm Sixtopia, far away from Even. As you've probably already figured, the Kingdom of Random is themed on dice games and is therefore separated into 6 regions. We begin in Even's hometown of Onecroft, which represents the lowest slums where only the most unfortunate souls reside. Even's adventure then takes us through the likes of Two Town, where every resident suffers from split personality, and Freedom, where 3 siblings fight over who should rule the middle class realm, and so forth until she finally reaches Sixtopia.
What a delightful...
Way to make a perfectly awful day even worse. Another dreary day, everyone. Just muddle through this horrid life until death finally claims us.
These locations were a joy to explore, and although the mirroring of social class systems is far from subtle, I still found myself fully invested in this world and its range of different characters. Every time I'd enter a new realm, I'd do my best to talk to every weird and wonderful person I could just to get a feel of that town's history and lore. This would often lead to a surprising amount of side missions I wasn't expecting for a game of this size, and meant my overall playtime clocked in at a surprising 15 plus hours, which is decent value for this game's price range. Even isn't in this adventure alone. She is flanked by the mysterious living dice, Dicey, who helps you along the way when having to fight members of the Queen's Guard. The combat in Lost in Random is really unique and once again revolves around dice games. The aim of the game is to use Even's slingshot to fire at the enemies, who will then drop these weird blue crystals that Dicey will run around and hoover up. Once Dicey has enough crystals, you can roll him, and the number he lands on will represent the number of action points you have to use. You with me so far? Good. You then have a collection of cards which all represent different scenarios, such as providing Even with different weapons, bombs, healing elixirs, magic attacks, and much more. Each card costs a different amount of action points, so rolling Dicey as high as possible is what you really want to do here. There is no leveling up system for Even, but Dicey can only roll up to a 2 when you first start off, so the main progression of the game comes from improving your trusty dice, or Dicey, so that you can roll higher numbers and do more damage. Even's progression comes from collecting different cards from all these unique realms by purchasing them from the giant living card shop, Manny Decks. I realise this may all sound a bit overcomplicated, but it really works in practice, and I had a lot of fun with it, especially during boss fights and the special board game battles.
Dice? Impossible. The Queen destroyed them all. Where did you find it? Tell me.
No, you tell me where my sister is, you witch!
Oh, you're Odd's sister, aren't you? All alone, far from home.
The only downside to the combat was that certain scenarios seemed to drag on just a little too long. There were more than a few occasions where I'd defeat a handful of enemies and feel fully satisfied, only to have twice as many pop up and I'd have to go all again. It also doesn't help that a lot of enemies aren't overly difficult, so it can begin to feel like you're just going through the motions after a while, which is a real shame when the combat is so original in the first place. Personally, I'd have preferred a handful of tough opponents rather than a seemingly endless barrage of puppets to destroy. The main issue with this is that it negatively impacts the pace of the game, which is a recurring issue elsewhere as well. As much as I enjoyed speaking to all the characters I mentioned earlier, there were a few times when the dialogue would just repeat itself. One or more NPCs would often reiterate the same plot point again and again, which I assume was added just in case you tried to skip over too much dialogue. It meant that I wouldn't always feel rewarded by asking all the questions presented to me, yet I'd still find myself asking them anyway, as I didn't want to miss anything in this charming story. It's not too much of an issue at all, but when mixed in with some of the combat areas going a bit too long, it results in the overall pace of the game feeling a bit slower than it needed to be.
We share each other's husbands. We multiply each other's. Wait, what? What? You said we share each other's husbands. Yep, I don't. You've been kissing my husband? Oh my god! Two-timer! It's double the fun!
The only other negative I want to mention is that I played the PS5 version, but if it wasn't for that little PS5 logo when booting the game up, I'd have never known. There's no use of the haptic feedback whatsoever, and although I love the game's art style, textures and lighting were identical to last gen, and it's really hard to pinpoint what makes this version a current gen title other than a slightly better frame rate. I suppose loading times are very quick, but there are still loading screens present. The only difference is that you don't get very long to read the tips. It's a good job then that I love the game's childish horror design regardless, and the soundtrack and narration is just as much a part of that as the visuals. The narrator in particular is absolutely hilarious. His comedic running commentary running over this bleak and spooky world is a fantastic contrast, and there were countless moments he had me fully laughing out loud.
A portrait of Uncle Jinx. It was said he'd sailed the 7 seas and then drowned in the 8th.
Lost in Random is a game I'm surprised hasn't had more attention. Exploring its Tim Burton inspired world is nothing short of joyous and worth playing for that alone. The combat is a lot of fun, even if the enemies aren't that much of a challenge, and the story is strong enough to carry you through despite it suffering from a few pacing issues. I believe both last gen and current gen versions are priced equally, but if not, I'd go with the cheaper option as there's barely any difference between them. Overall though, I'd highly recommend Lost in Random. It's been the gaming equivalent to a nice warm, comfortable blanket to help you through these cold October nights, and I really hope more people get the chance to play it. I give Lost in Random a 7.5 out of 10.
Who knew what adventures awaited her there? The answer is me. I do. I'm the narrator. But for Even and Dicey, the adventure was just beginning. And even Sister was still out there, somewhere, lost in random.
Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe as well for more content just like this. We've had lots of great stuff on the channel lately, especially if you're into Alan Wake. Stu's got a lot of cool stuff on that, so make sure you check that out. And to keep up with everything else we're doing, make sure you're following us over on the Twitter at respawning.uk. And for everything else, make sure you hit up respawning.co.uk for all the latest news and reviews. Once again, thank you for watching. I've been Mikey, and I shall catch you next time.